It's time for this week's RSPW Rewind. The final rewind of 2019 takes us back to the year 1995. The year I nearly stopped watching WWE altogether. It was so boring, leading up to WrestleMania 11. The night after WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels, fresh off his loss to Diesel, stood in the ring with Vince McMahon and gave his bodyguard Sid the night off, which did not sit very well with Sid, because Sid had played a role in the championship match of WrestleMania, arguably may have cost Shawn Michaels the title. And so Shawn was saying, look, Big Sid, in this rematch, whenever the rematch is, you got the night off. So Sid did not take kindly to that. He laid out Shawn with 4 power bombs before Diesel came to his rescue, the rescue of his former friend. The day after Monday Night Raw, on April 4th, 1995, Ken started a thread titled, "What the hell?" Says McMahon on commentary says, "You won't believe what happened during the break. Shawn is face down on the mat and Sid is standing over him. Suddenly, Diesel storms the ring and takes a couple of shots at Sid and stands over Shawn Michaels, protecting him. And the show ends with McMahon saying, 'I don't believe it.' No replay, no flashback, no information, nothing. Was any one of our loyal core of RSPW infomaniacs there, and can they post a report on what happened?" Coleman chimes in, "You saw all that I saw. At first I thought that it was that Big Daddy Cool wanted to protect Shawn so that Shawn wouldn't have the excuse of an injury for losing in their rematch. However, that does not lead to much of a storyline or an angle. When they broke for commercial, I thought it would be a face turn for Sid, but afterwards that seemed to not be the case. It might just be that Shawn is going to turn face, have a face versus face match for the title with Diesel and win the belt as a babyface. That would leave Diesel free to feud with Sid without the belt being on the line." Poom then responded, "The Shawn-Sid split came rather quickly and unexpectedly, which is a good thing. I truly hope Ross and McMahon don't make..." What is this McMahon bullshit? I think Shawn Michaels called Vince McMahon that. Didn't he call him that at one point on TV? He called him McMahon or something. Anyway, he says, "I truly hope Ross and McMahon don't make Shawn a face, which in my opinion just would not work. It would be like trying to make Vader a babyface. No way." Brett A. Schwann writes, "According to Joe Pedicino's hotline, is it Joe Pedicino or Joe Pedicino? I think it's Joe Pedicino. According to Joe Pedicino's hotline, Sid powerbombed Michaels 4 times before Diesel made the save. Afterwards, Shawn was carried out on a stretcher." That comment led to Joe Pedicino himself writing in to clarify things here on RSPW. And by the way, I was sorry to see his wife, Bonnie Blackstone's video back in June, that Joe suffered a stroke and is basically bedridden now. He did have his own hotline for news back in the day, and from all the threads I've gone through, of the many RSPW threads I've gone through, he was a frequent poster in the news group. But he chimed in here. He had this to say. He said, "During the commercial break, Sid told Shawn that everything was okay, and if he wanted him to take the day off when the rematch takes place, that he would. He started to walk away, and he clotheslined Shawn from behind. He then proceeded to powerbomb him 4 times. He found a way to lift the man even higher than in the past, so the powerbombs looked even more impressive, plus Shawn sold them like crazy. By the 3rd one, he was out cold. Sid had to pick up his limp body for the 4th one. Vince and Jimmy C were going crazy. Sid waited for the cue to go for the 5th powerbomb when Diesel came in to stop him and ran him off, just as the cameras came back on again. You saw and heard the rest. By the way, I wasn't there, but on the satellite, they don't go away for commercials, so I watched what happened as they taped it for replay." I do miss those satellite days where people would leak footage of Raw and SmackDown in between commercial breaks or before they went on the air. And even after the show. I still have videos on my system of off-air satellite stuff, and Brock Lesnar having fun with The Undertaker and beating up Paul Heyman and all that kind of stuff. There used to be another forum that I would frequent. This was in the early 2000s. There was a forum called the Sledgehammer Forum. I don't know if anybody remembers the Sledgehammer Forum. They'd post media on there all the time, just general media stuff. So they would have music videos that people would put together, set to wrestling clips. Really good stuff, actually. Really good stuff people would put together, but also they would leak video clips of the satellite stuff. Because I didn't have satellite, so I couldn't watch that kind of stuff. But people would, and then they would put it online. On April 16th, 1995, Rob wanted to talk about the Ultimate Warrior, as we shift gears here. With a post titled, Ultimate Warrior, I am very confused. Well, that could mean a whole bunch of different things. Either maybe he just watched a promo of his. I don't know, but I saw that title and I laughed out loud. I said, Ultimate Warrior, I am very confused. As most of us were whenever we would listen to a Warrior promo. He says, could someone help me clear up all the stories about the Ultimate Warrior? How many of them were there really? Was Steve DeSalvo one of them? Did anyone who portrayed the Warrior die? I remember hearing rumors about that back in 1990. Any help would be greatly appreciated. And I did search. I searched in vain for any posts about this from 1990. Unfortunately, I could not find them. You can't find all of the old RSPW threads, clearly. I got a lot of things I've tried searching for that I just have not been able to find. So that was one of them. I didn't come up with anything. But anyway, the Stilt Man decided that he would be a wise ass and he would have some fun with Rob here. He says, as the officially appointed boss of RSPW, I must take the opportunity to help this poor fellow out and clear up the confusion. On the question of how many of them were there really, he says, there were 3 Ultimate Warriors. Was Steve DeSalvo one of them? Yes, he was. He was one of them. He is the only one still alive, in fact. And, that is not true, obviously. Although, I didn't know what Steve DeSalvo even looked like. I've seen his name mentioned on RSPW a few times. So I looked this Steve DeSalvo guy up, and he does kind of look like the Ultimate Warrior. At first glance, he does kind of look like the Warrior, or maybe Renegade, who also kind of look like the Warrior. I could see a little bit of a resemblance there. Did anyone who portrayed the Warrior die? I remember hearing rumors about that in 1990. Yes, the original one, Jim Hellwig, and the first replacement, Rodney Anoa'i, both died. Hellwig had a freak heart attack, believed to have been caused by his steroid abuse. Anoa'i died in a car accident about 4 weeks before the Survivor Series in 1992. Steve DeSalvo was hired to be the Warrior, showed up at one house show, and then they decided to drop the angle because he did not resemble the other 2 enough. Rather than put a third replacement out, they dropped the angle altogether and came up with the Kurt Hennig turns on Ric Flair angle for the pay-per-view. DeSalvo never showed up on TV in the WWF and is now in WCW working as the Renegade. Jesus Christ. Oh, man. Brian Lewis could hear no more of this, and he decided to be a party pooper. How many of them were there really? 1. Was Steve DeSalvo one of them? No, never. This was a joke started on RSPW years ago that some people will not let die, even though it stopped being funny a long time ago. Did anyone who portrayed the Ultimate Warrior die? Not unless someone has killed that WCW Renegade guy over the last week. Oof. Oh, man. Well, I guess that's not so funny in retrospect. Renegade shot himself in the head a few years later, after WCW released him. Brian Lewis also chimed in on a different Ultimate Warrior post a few months later on July 25th, after reaching his breaking point. He says, because people were asking again about the Warrior and his identity, and did he really die, and what's up with these stories, and so Brian Lewis just snapped. And he said, he was killed yesterday, outside his gym in Arizona by a mob of angry RSPW regulars who were sick of answering questions about where he is now. Oh, man. You know, for years, people bought into the stories about there being 2 or 3 different Ultimate Warriors, different people portraying the Ultimate Warrior because the first one died in a car accident or had a heart attack. He did die of a heart attack, but that was over 20 years later. There was only ever one Ultimate Warrior. That's it. And you know what? Those rumors, which even I heard when I was younger, that the real Warrior, he died in a car crash, I bet you they were started on RSPW. I bet that's where it started. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to find, you know what, I ought to search for this. I would not be surprised if all the stuff about the Macho Man Randy Savage, having sex with an underage Stephanie McMahon, if all that stuff was started in RSPW, I bet this news group is what started it. I bet it started there and it just spiraled out of control and it just gained a life of its own. I bet it started right here in this news group. July 25th, or rather July 28th, I should say, 1995, Freak Boy, with a post titled Mabel vs. Diesel, Not Unpredictable. I don't know why you idiots are now complaining about the SummerSlam main event, Mabel vs. Diesel. If you really think that it's a bad idea for these two to wrestle, then why didn't anyone say anything after the King of the Ring? Obviously, the King of the Ring goes on to face the champion at SummerSlam. It's just like the winner of the Royal Rumble goes on to face the champion at WrestleMania. Let me stop there. Let me stop Freak Boy there. This actually is not true. Most people assume that was the case, that the King of the Ring goes on to face the champion at SummerSlam. That was only true in 1994 because Owen Hart was in the middle of a feud with his brother. Outside of that was almost never the case. That was not the case with Brett in 93. That was not the case with Austin in 96. That was not the case with Triple H in 97. That was not the case with Shamrock in 98. That was not the case with Billy Gunn in 99. Mabel, Kurt Angle, and Brock Lesnar, I believe, were the only ones who actually went on to face the champion at SummerSlam. Kurt was in a three-way with Rock and Triple H. Anyway, I'm sorry for interrupting Freak Boy. Please continue. He says, personally, I don't think that it will be a bad match. I think that everyone is complaining because of the way Mabel was used before. Come to think of it, the same people who were complaining that McMahon was a racist are now complaining that Mabel, a black guy, is being given a huge push. Ask, and ye shall receive. And then at the end of his post, he included this rumor from the rumor mill. Virgil is making a comeback to the WWF. He will be Mabel and Mo's manager and will be known as the Harlem Knight to go along with the Monarchy gimmick. He supposedly put on 30 pounds of muscle and grew a beard, a mustache, and hair on his head. He should get over huge. Well, that never happened. Although Virgil with a beard, mustache, and hair on his head would be quite the sight. Trevor Barry disputes Freak Boy's assertion that no one spoke out against a Mabel Diesel match. He said, "What news group were you reading? The net was inundated by people complaining about the fact that a talentless slob like Mabel was made king." There were actually quite a few people on RSPW calling Vince McMahon a racist, even before the King of the Ring pay-per-view in 1995. And the majority of the posters, from what I saw, actually leapt to Vince's defense. So there were way more Vince defenders than detractors when it came to the whole, hey, he's a racist thing. On July 13th, Roger said, could the reason that Mabel is king be because Vince McMahon was reading RSPW just before King of the Ring and wanted to destroy any comments about him being racist? It seems odd to me that just before King of the Ring, there were several people claiming Vince was a racist, and then Mabel suddenly became King of the Ring. Please note that I am not accusing and have never accused Vince of being a racist, nor do I think he is. Sam Nord the Barbarian responded, "You're really kidding yourself if you think that Vince McMahon would make a booking decision on the basis of a small faction of the wrestling audience who hang out on a Usenet news group making the suggestion that he may be racist. Love him or hate him, he is an extraordinarily successful businessman. I seriously doubt that he would let RSPW have any influence over his booking decisions as much as some egocentric folks around here would like to think so. I think he was simply trying to get Mabel over as a monster heel." I flagged some of the Vince McMahon is racist posts for another time. I may use them in a different RSPW segment because it caused quite a stir in the group, from what I can see. I think one of these days it may be worth sharing some of these posts. But let's end with something more lighthearted. From November 21st, 1995, a post by Manny titled Shawn and Double J's theme music. Can anyone provide the lyrics to Sexy Boy and I'm Your Baby Tonight? It's so frustrating to keep on humming these tunes. I know someone has posted Shawn's on RSPW before. Please email me or reply to the news group so others can benefit. Vince, not McMahon, says, I'd try Titan Sports, or calling ASCAP or BMI and checking out if Jimmy Hart or Rick Derringer was one of the writers. Both have big catalogs and were responsible for composing a lot of the musical schlock on the show. Jeremy responds, actually, you might want to try Jim Johnston, who has been the WWF's music director for many years. Also try Stephanie Music, which is the WWF's music publisher. Yes, they started a music publishing company called Stephanie Music, after you-know-who. You might want to sit tight for another wrestling album from WWF. Believe it or not, the Slammies may be making a return, which could indicate a forthcoming WWF wrestling album. And in fact, Jeremy was correct. There was another Slammies. The Slammies were brought back in 1996 for the first time since probably 86 or 87. And it was another year or so before a new album came out, but it did come out. That was the WWF Full Metal CD from 1996, which had both of those songs on there. Shawn's theme music and With My Baby Tonight. It was not I'm Your Baby Tonight. My own personal memories... Full Metal, that brings me back. My personal memories of Full Metal, which is a great album, by the way. Thorn in Your Eye is on there, which they used as the Attitude Era music for Raw. And they brought in guys from Anthrax, Scott Ian and Typo Negative, I forgot the name of the person, to work on that. And that other track was Thorn in Your Eye and, We Are the World, or whatever the fuck it was. But they had a lot of great songs on that CD. They had Bret Hart's theme, they had Diesel's theme, Goldust, Psycho Sid, Razor Ramon, The Undertaker. It was a great CD, save for the fact that it's not the arena version of Shawn Michaels' theme music. To this day, I cannot listen to that version of his song from that Full Metal album, because it sounds terrible. And I have no idea why they didn't just use the authentic arena version of his theme music. It doesn't make any sense to me. And you know how I was able to finally hear the real version of Sexy Boy? The In Your House PC video game. That game came out around the same time, I think late 96. When I put the CD-ROM in my computer, this is my old IBM Aptiva. That was my first computer in 94. When I put that CD-ROM in my computer, if I checked the file folder, the audio files were there. They had the actual audio. They weren't MP3s, but whatever format it was. But I would just click on each song and it would play in Windows Media Player. So that's how I got the music. They had the correct version of Sexy Boy on that game. So if you ever listen to them side by side, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, if you listen to both versions side by side or one right after the other, I guarantee you will hear the difference right away. But I was obsessed with getting my hands on that Full Metal album when it first came out. It was sold out everywhere I looked for it. Everywhere I looked, Sam Ash, Sam Goody, whatever stores were around back then. Nobody had it. Nobody had it. It was all sold out. And God bless her, it was Mama Monster who got it for her. I don't know where she got it from. I don't know where she found it. She found it. She knew I was looking for it. She found the CD and she bought it for me. Legend has it that she may have had to fight for it. She may have had to put some bitches down. That was Mama Monster. And she got me my CD. She always had my back, even with all this wrestling nonsense. So this has been your weekly reminder that Shawn Michaels may be a sexy boy, but he is not, in fact, your boy toy.